All right. Have you ever run your garden and done your garden by the moon signs? It's an old idea, but I thought it'd be fun to talk about. Well, all right, here's how this came up. I was watching a Tim Farmer's Country Kitchen on YouTube the other day, and he had one of his little segments. And by the way, if you've never watched Tim Farmer, if you're like me and you garden and you cook and you kind of like little animals, like farmy things, you'll love that show. It's an actual 30-minute show that's been on Kentucky TV, and then they release the episodes later on onto YouTube. So it's really kind of a well done and really kind of a neat thing. Likeable people, but they're big on some of the knowledge that the old folks have. And this guy came on. He was an older gentleman, and he was talking about his garden and raising his garden. And he said that I believe he said he was an assistant pastor at the time, and that he was doing a vegetable garden, for his family. Well, and his garden was not doing real great, Well, he had a neighbor that's garden was just beautiful. He was just having great luck, and everything was working great. So he was questioning his neighbor, and the neighbor said the next spring came up and said, "Okay, now, if you want your garden to be like mine," he says, "I'll tell you what to do. I'll tell you when to do it. And you do it when I tell you to." Okay? And sure enough, he had a great garden that year. And then it came out that, well, what this was this guy read the Farmer's Almanac and did everything by the sign of the moon. So he was telling him what day to do this on, what day to do that on. Excuse me. He was using those cues from the Farmer's Almanac. Well, it got me to thinking, and I can remember guys when I was a young man that talked about the same thing, and every one of them seemed very positive about it. So I decided to do a little research and thought I'd share it with you folks. All right, I thought a nice picture of a garden might help us get in the mood. I looked this up on Google, and just checked it out. And there's a couple actual scientific things that kind of make a little more sense. First of all, we all know that the moon controls our tides, how high they are, and what happens with our tides. Well, their thought is it also kind of affects groundwater. It'll pull it up closer to the surface when you have a strong pull from the moon. And then also there's more or less light at night, which has some effect on plants also. So basically they say, there's days you should not do this and should do that. Well, all right, so there is some scientific facts. May not be a lot, but there's a little something to make you think that, okay, maybe these guys had some basis, some reason to think that this works. And you got to figure that in past times, that garden was important. It was not just something we did as a hobby, or it was important. It was a big part of your diet. So anyway, just exploring this and thinking about it, I happened to glance through my Play Store app on my phone. And sure enough, I found an app. Free, doesn't cost you anything to do. So I'm going to show you. It's called Moon and Garden. And this is what you get with it. See, you know, there's the top of the page, and it's a little calendar, and you can flip from month to month, and it's got obviously little icons, you know. And I clicked on this day and took this screenshot because that was actually the 21st when I did it. So when you click on it, then you come up with this. Okay? And it tells you what you can plant that day, what you can do, and what to avoid doing. Okay? Now, the terms here are a little confusing, or a little vague. Okay? It says avoid to sow, but there's stuff you can plant. I think it says plantation. I assume that means what you can plant. So it's a little different. It's a little different, but still. And I think there's a Facebook page you can ask questions. So that's not an issue. But you could figure the last of it out. Now there were some other apps too. This was just the simplest one. And it also had just a real simple garden planner. You could click on a square, pick a vegetable to go on there, and that's what you did. Okay? So, you know, my opinion, I've never done this before, and I think I will, just as a experiment to see what I think of it by the end of the year. I'll note it in my little garden book where I plan out my gardens and put down the dates that I do things. And we'll just see, you know. Like everything, I'm not going to have a for sure answer because there'll be other changes too. Like I'm adding some fertilization this year because I tested my soil and found out I was zip for nitrogen there. So, you know, it's an experiment, but it's a free experiment. There's nothing in this that costs you any money to try it. The generation before us really believed in it. If you're a younger person watching that, 2 generations ago, they really believed in it. And I kind of think with all the push nowadays for things being organic and so on, that this is kind of a natural thing that you might want to try. So, all right, that's it for today. I want you to all have a quality day. And leave comments, please.